Today we are joined by Wayne Gaston of Henninger Electric. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
So tell us a little bit about your business and how long you've been doing what you do.
Yeah, so Henninger Electric's been around officially since 1995. I've been in the trade since 2005 and purchased the business from Perry Henninger in 2013. So my last name is different than the company because of who I bought it from. He had a good reputation, a lot of customer following, and a lot of marketing already started, that it just seemed not necessary to change the name and just continue business as it was and continue growing it, because he had done a great job getting it started and had worked a lot of time besides being employed at Deere's. He worked on the side getting this business started, that it just made sense to keep going with it and keep growing it. And it's turned out to be a good decision to just leave it the way it was and learn how to pronounce that long name and keep growing it. So,
I love that you purchased the building or the business and you retain the name. It's so important that when we start a business, we have a choice to start it or purchase it. And when you're purchasing, thinking through the aspects of the goodwill and the reputation that come with the name. And if those don't come with it, making the decision to change it. But the fact that he already had that. And I love how your business has cycled through. So it was bootstrapped in the beginning, and then it changed ownership, and now you're continuing to build it, which is really exciting. So who do you serve best? Like, who's your ideal client?
So our industry, there's a couple different ways to do business, but our number one person we serve is directly to the customer. Somebody that has an issue calls in and wants anywhere from a half hour worth of troubleshooting to 3 or 4 days worth of an addition, or maybe a new house or basement remodel. A lot of other businesses rely on, public bidding and subcontracting to contractors for their work, but majority of where we've grown and with that reputation has been based on directly serving the customer and pleasing the customer, not having somebody else to have to relay messages and stuff. We just deal directly for the most part. We do have contractors we work for, and that's part of growing. But yeah, our best niche is directly with the customer.
So what's the smallest job that you've ever done for a customer that you can remember?
Well, we do a lot of small jobs, which I would say is an hour or less. You're coming in, you're replacing a receptacle that got burned up or had a bad connection or something. But smallest, we've gone out and reset breakers, and that's all the job was, just sorry that you didn't realize this is how they function, and show them how it works, and then move on. And then, yeah.
Okay, so no job too small for your organization. That's awesome. There's probably a lot of people out there, myself included, that aren't always comfortable messing with anything electrical in their house. So, so tell me a little bit about your team. How big is your team?
Oh gosh, our team. So we have 11 on payroll as far as guys in the field or office staff. And then me and my wife share the duties as far as business ownership responsibilities. So we have 13 technically.
Okay. So it's interesting that you work with your spouse, me too. What advice would you give to anybody that's considering going into business and working with their spouse?
Separation of duties.
Okay.
We work together, but we don't typically work together here. Like often she'll work from home and I'll be in here, and then we'll flip flop roles, or Even if we are here, like now, I'm in the office and she's out in the kind of the common space of the open office. Just we need to have our own spaces, and we need to be able to be confident in the decisions that we are required to make. And sometimes that can be muddied up with trying to communicate that together. And there's things that we do meet together and go over. And usually, you know, that works best in an environment where it can be almost like a date lunch, or, you know, even if it's just bringing lunch in here and sitting aside and going through it, rather than trying to eat up all your evening time. That's the biggest thing I see is people that are in business with their spouse. You run out of stuff to talk about at night. So it's nice to have separation between work and home.
Interesting. So what would you say is the best part about working with your spouse?
We're on the same page. There's never a wonder of what's my business partner thinking, what's their life goals, where are they at emotionally now versus where we started. And, you know, that's the nice thing about having that constant contact with them is, you know, when we're out on other kids events and stuff, you know, there might be things that spark our interest and we talk about it, and it is kind of work related, but it's kind of life related and long-term goals and short-term goals and things like that.
Yeah. Interesting. So as a business owner, when you think back to last year versus this year, what do you feel like has been the biggest change for you in business?
We haven't seen a lot of change in business as far as what we do. I mean, obviously COVID had an effect on everybody. But the number one thing I think I would say is different is the workload. Our biggest struggle right now is there's so many people aging out of our industry, retiring, being unable to physically do the job any longer at a record pace, faster than we're bringing guys on. And we're trying to bring them in out of high school, young, with the physical abilities to do the job and the long-term abilities to learn it and to really make a career out of it, rather than, you know, some jobs are just shorter time to get into it, so it's easier to switch careers. Ours is kind of, you have to be dedicated for more than, I mean, it's a 4-year investment before you even get into it, being officially an electrician. So that's our biggest struggle right now, or our biggest change since even 2 years ago.
So what got you into the trade, specifically becoming an electrician?
As a young adult, or, you know, in school age, I was always kind of interested in electronics or, you know, lights and things of that nature. Never really thought about it. I had a high school job at a cabinet shop. And they brought in an electrician to wire some stuff, and kind of had a conversation with him on what the work involves and kind of what the career means and what you would be doing, and, you know, obviously income, to see if it's, you know, an entry level position or is it something you could raise a family on. So that was kind of the springboard that got me started, interested. I did have some family that knew electricians and had experience in the field, and they thought that I would be a good fit for that kind of career based on my skill sets at that point. So it really was just kind of apply somewhere and jump in and see if I liked it, you know, much like a college would be, or anything that you would get into in that aspect. But
so what is the most rewarding part of being an electrician? What do you like most about it?
the customers, you know, there's something about when you go into a job and they just had, you know, real basic lighting or something, and you leave and it's just the light we shed on the room can really make your kitchen look so much fancier and bring out the all the other aspects that you invested in to make a bathroom really nice, the lighting can make a huge difference if it's just dim or dull or not where you need it versus dealing with the customers has its downsides, but that's the biggest draw is when you can please somebody and they'll tell, a bunch of other people about it. And that's what I enjoy.
Mhm. So you went from being an employee to making the big decision and taking on the big risk of business ownership. What has been the most rewarding part of making that transition?
The growth process, I think, is the most rewarding. Something that I often never thought about as an employee is where am I going? What am I building towards? You just kind of get stuck in the every day I do this and I am striving to do it better and bring more value to myself. But with business ownership, it's not just every day, it's this day and then it's the next month and then it's the next year and then it's the next 10 years. It really broadens what you're working towards and what you're thinking about. So
Awesome. So what advice would you give to somebody who is considering either starting or buying a business and jumping into this crazy world of business ownership?
In my opinion, I really enjoy business ownership and development and growth, but that's not for everybody. There are a lot of people, and sometimes it's your home life, what you have going on. It's important to have the stability of employment, and the rules are pretty well outlined and the goals are set, and it's understandable what you need to do to fulfill your obligation. But there's a whole nother side as far as like business ownership. There's not rules necessarily on what you do and what you don't do, and there's not specific goals that you need to reach to have achieved your job. And that's part of what I really enjoy is the sky really is the limit. What do you want to make of this? How much do you want to go? How high do you want to go? And what direction do you want to go? But sometimes that can be daunting. Some people that's not their niche. They are built different than entrepreneurs are. So I think the big thing is to know yourself on how do you handle stress? How do you handle the unknown? Not everybody's set for that, but if you are, it can be very rewarding.
So do you have some perspective on buying a business versus starting a business?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you what went through my head because obviously I could have started my own. That's more common than buying a business. It was a weighing process, trying to decide the value that Terry wanted on the business. Was that worth what I was getting for that investment? Obviously the bank looks at it also, is it financially worth it? But there's a bit of heart that goes into it. Is it really what you want, or do you want to put your name on something and make it your own? The way I looked at it is I had a family at that point, and buying a business allowed me to merely change the business owner's name, continue doing what I was doing, and not having to worry about, do I have enough work to get me through the winter? Do I have enough cash flow to get me through the week? A lot of those systems were started already. So as a person that did have more obligations than just myself, it was nice peace of mind knowing that I might be investing more than I would if I was just starting my own, but I know that there's some comfort in we're going to make this a go and it's going to be successful as long as I continue doing what he did.
Great differentiation. Definitely a different level of risk. And, I think also when you're achievement driven, success minded, and you have a sense of responsibility, you're going to make it work. I've seen a lot of people buy a business and then tank it because they weren't necessarily prepared for the commitment that it was going to be. So, so anything else that you feel like is important for anybody watching this to know about Henninger Electric or you as a business owner?
Well, Henninger Electric, I think when I meet with my guys, we often go over kind of our number one rule is quality. And that's what Terry started the business on. That's what we've grown the business on. And I think that's the number one thing that people value is your costs can be more or less than the competition. But when you compete on a level of quality, it's really hard to negotiate the cost when you know that you'll be happy with the job at the end. So we often do reiterate that with all of our staff that, you know, we're not always winning every job, but the jobs that we are winning, people understand that what they're going to get is going to be the best. And it takes a level of dedication on our end to make sure that our guys are trained up and understand the value there. But once we do, it's made it really exciting for growth purposes that people value us, people understand what they're getting, and repeat business makes that a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. It's important to create a legacy and stand for something. One of my mentors, when I first started working for him, told me on my very first day that anytime that you go into a building new or you take over a leadership position new, you have a choice to make. And that is what you want to be known for. And that decision, whatever you decide you want to be known for, creates your legacy, but you have a responsibility once you choose it to live into it. So I love that quality is your legacy, and it was the legacy that already was with that business and why it's such a strong brand in our community. So if somebody needed an electrician or needed your services, how do they find you? How do they get a hold of you?
It's getting to the point anymore. It's hard not to find us. We're on Facebook. We got a website. We're on the radio. We're on TV. There's not a whole lot of platforms short of like YouTube that we're not on. Google's been great to us. We've really grown into their environment with all the reviews that we've asked previous customers for, and it makes it really easy when you're building it on quality to ask for reviews and be able to boost us to the top of the list.
Amen to that. So
Yeah.
what's your website and maybe a phone number if somebody wanted to call into the office?
Website's easy, henningerelectric.com. Phone number's 319-232-6373.
Perfect. We'll make sure we put those in the details of the video so that anybody wanting to reach out can make sure they connect. And with that, I want to thank you for taking your time out today to share your insights on owning a business and buying one versus starting one, working with your spouse. A lot of great content and a lot of great lessons and insights. So thank you so much for your time and for being so willing to share.
No problem.